very few people have got a problem with trying to be fat enough, but most people have a problem with trying to get it off. And we are joined on the line now by a very inspirational man called Andrew Shanahan, who managed to lose 4 stone. Wow. And he's going to tell us how, with the headline in the Mail Online, which alerted us to this story and to this man's remarkable approach to weight loss, how to nag your husband to lose weight. Man who lost 4 stone reveals the tricks that will get your other half off the sofa. His wife Emma was desperate for him to lose weight. She tried the nice softly approach, which he said was all wrong. Men like to hear it straight. Don't couch things in niceties. So is the process by which you get a man to lose weight different to that of a woman? Andrew's on the line now. Andrew, welcome to FUBAR.
Good morning. Thanks ever so much for having me on.
Well, it's a real treat to have you on. And first of all, huge congratulations on your weight loss. What a great achievement.
4 stone, Andrew.
Thank you very much. I'm sure my wife would insist that I say I owe it all to her.
So you think, the boys, we need a bit of tough love, do we?
I think certainly the way that men and women approach weight loss is very, very different. Biologically, this might not come as a surprise to you, but men and women are different. And the way that their bodies lose weight is very different. So, for example, men often carry a lot more lean mass, which means that they can process far more calories, which is why typically a man's calorie allowance would be higher than a woman's for the day. But also, psychologically, the way that we look at weight loss is just like 2 different species, essentially. Women tend to be very supportive, tend to be very, if their mates are losing weight, then they understand what they're going through and try and help them. I think for blokes, it tends to be a bit more of a, either a joke or something that they don't particularly talk about that much.
And men seem to put on weight in different places to women, don't they? Is that correct? Because they always I notice guys get that little pouchy bit. The muffin. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the gut is the bane of many a man's life, and the
beer gut.
Yeah, it is the beer gut, and it's where a lot of men tend to carry their weight, and it's a very accurate predictor of illness. To be truthful, so if you are looking down at the moment and seeing a particularly large gut yourself, then it's an indication that something needs to be done.
Yeah, that's right. They think now the quickest, with the doctors and everything, they don't have to use any machines or anything like that. They just put a tape measure around your waist, and that is a direct correlation between you and your chances of having a whole range of things, right? Type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and all of that stuff. Because it's that quite nasty fat which lies in the gut as well, isn't it? Because aren't there a couple of different kinds of fat on your body, and one is quite easily burned off and not as sort of toxic?
Yeah, exactly. And also, it gives lie to the idea that if you don't have visible fat, then you are healthy. There's a lot of fat that lies on the internal organs, which can be very damaging to your health. So it's really something where I think for a lot of men, I would really urge them to look seriously about their health. I think the statistic is that 44% of people who are obese don't consider themselves to be at risk of any health concerns because of their weight. So that's a massive proportion of men and women who just don't understand the potential trouble that their weight can get them into.
But I'm a bit confused, Andrew, because I think your achievement is great, but I've always thought when it comes to your own health and whether it's giving up, if you've got an addiction, if you're trying to give up the fags, or you're trying to cut back on your boozing, or you're trying to lose weight, I've always thought the key to overcoming any of these problems is for it to come from within, that you really want it. Years and years ago, I used to smoke, and when I was a student, and people were begging me to quit. I was like, no, I enjoy it. And it was only at the point where I started to hate it and I wanted to quit that I was ready. So I'm just wondering about this sort of approach where you're suggesting that the spouse should apply pressure and nag. Surely, if it doesn't come from the guy himself, it's not going to work, is it?
Well, I think that's very valid, and also, I mean, the main point is that I'm not necessarily advocating that you do go out and nag your spouse. I mean, see how long you last if you do. But from that side of things, it's more the fact that sort of, encouragement within relationships, that communication goes on. Certainly in my situation with my wife Emma, it was the fact that she had lost quite a lot of weight before me, and she was just sort of, you reach those points in relationships where one partner goes off in one direction and you want the other person to come with you, and so it's natural that you would communicate those things. And also I think there is the element of, if it was something more immediately seriously damaging to health. So, for example, I was involved in drugs, or as you were with smoking. That's something that we would almost expect our partners to bring up and to try and encourage us, because ultimately you hope that they love you and that they want what's best for you. And certainly in Emma's case, where she had lost the weight, she knew how good she felt through having started running and through just eating more sensibly. And she just wanted me to experience the same things. Now, again, by no means am I saying that nagging is the right way to go, but certainly I think that there are ways that you can talk to your partner.
I mean, like if you're having steak and kidney pie or fish and chips, would she give you evil eye and she munched on her salad?
Yes, she would. Well, also, I mean, as is the case with around about 70% of households, she's the one who primarily does most of the shopping and cooking. So if there wasn't a steak and kidney pie in, then potentially that would stop me from eting it.
Would you go as far as to suggest a spouse should withdraw some of the more sort of intimate privileges off of her husband?
The Lysis Strata method. So stop. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm sure it can work. Fortunately, Emma never pursued that particular line of persuasion.
That's a good idea. I know we're having a very sexy show with 50 Shades premiere on tonight, but it must have improved your sex life, because if you're feeling fitter and look hotter, it must help in the bedroom department, doesn't it?
You would probably have to ask Emma about that.
Always modest, which I like. The book is called Man vs. Fat, The Weight Loss Manual. There's also a website as well. It's an absolute must-read. I've had a look through, and I think, well, first of all, you're living proof that it works, but
Sure.
I think it's a very real-world, accessible guide to weight loss, and here's the killer.
Thank you.
It works. So, can you give our audience, for those, the uninitiated, a few sort of, apart from pressure from your partner and a bit of nagging, a bit of tough love, what are some of the key steps that make up your approach to weight loss in the book?
I'm always quite aware that people are a little bit disappointed when I say how I lost weight, because it is among the more boring ways of losing weight. It's the sensible NHS changes and choices option, where ultimately what you do is you make small changes which you can perpetuate for a long time. So from my point of view, one of the big issues that I had was the portions. Similar to a lot of guys, I've got a big appetite. I like to eat a big plate of food.
Yeah.
And, I was eating portions that were massively in excess of what I should have been eating. So the actual food in itself wasn't necessarily the problem. It was the scale of what I was eating. So I think that's just one tip there is something that, for guys, is a huge issue. Just, looking at the portion size and trying to reduce that.
Listen,
get smaller plates.
You are preaching to the converted. You are kicking an open door, Andrew, because I made a documentary about obesity called The World's Fattest Families and Me for Channel 4, and I went around the world, and I noticed that really the through line in all of the case studies was portion size. And one of the big things, and one of the contributing factors, is big business, who make products for us that are bigger than they need to be. Whether it's, certainly in America, I remember pulling over at a roadside service station, and I was thirsty. They didn't have water in any of these places, and all I could get was 1.5 litre bottles of Sprite, So definitely, I completely agree with you. I think portion size is an interesting one. And also, I wonder whether our process of eating, like, for example, if you eat more slowly and you have a smaller portion and then you wait 10 minutes, you suddenly discover that actually you're full. And it's only with the big portions, it's only by the time you finish them, you've realised you've eaten too much.
I think that's absolutely right. That was definitely one of the things that had a real impact on me. And I think I accidentally reinvented mindful eating, because, these sort of topics aren't really discussed by men. I'd never heard of mindful eating. I'd never read a Cosmo article in my life. But what I realised was that if at the beginning of a meal I just took 3 breaths, just to sort of appreciate the fact that, for one, someone had made me a nice meal, and for 2, I was just about to eat, that really did concentrate what I experienced from eating that. And there are all sorts of interesting tips and techniques. If you have a look at manvfat.com, we've got quite a lot of information about mindful eating, translated for blokes, obviously. But it's, that sort of process is really useful. And, just one of the other things that I would say is addressing activity levels. One of the key reasons that we are suffering so badly for our health is because our activity levels have just been decimated over the last couple of decades. And really, that's about finding activity that you actually enjoy. I'm forever perplexed when people talk about, I'm going to the gym. I don't particularly like it, but, of course, if you're engaged in some sort of activity that you don't enjoy, you are not going to be able to sustain it. So really, it's about finding activity that you can build into your life, whether that's walking the kids to school, whether it's getting off the bus one stop earlier so that you incorporate that. Getting one of the movement trackers, which are a great way of just giving you that kick up the arse to see whether you are meeting your steps for the day.
I think it's little and often. I think you're right. The owner, Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, has unveiled the Apple Watch, and it's got a feature on it which buzzes once an hour to tell you just to get up. It's like, just stand up now, please. They were just talking about in the office.
Stand up, sit down.
And if you have meetings, have the meeting standing up. If you're making a phone call, walk around while you're on the phone. It's those little things, isn't it? And he used this very good expression, which he said, "Sitting is the new cancer." And of course, this is not only about weight loss, is it? It's your health and about being here for many years to come.
See, I do that. I do bum squats every hour.
I know you do, but only when you're drunk. And normally to music.
Can I say huge congratulations, Andrew? It's a huge amount of weight. Full stone.
You look devilishly handsome. I mean, you're always a fine-looking man, but now look at you, slimline. There's a picture of you in a really sharp suit.
But I suppose you've had to change your whole wardrobe, haven't you, Andrew? And it's been quite expensive, hasn't it? Because you look very different.
That's one of the nice consequences, really. You don't mind buying new clothes, which are a bit smaller and fit a bit better if you've lost weight. So, thank you ever so much, Mark.
Before we let you go, Andrew, have you built in is there an emergency valve, like a pleasure moment in the diet where you can still go and have a beer? Because we're talking about blokes here. And men require beer. It's a kind of medical necessity. So to what extent are the treats, in terms of man versus fat, is it kind of just cold turkey, or are we still allowed to kick off a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should point out that Man v Fat isn't necessarily a diet in and of itself. We're not going to tell you to only eat avocado every Tuesday or anything like that. We support guys who are on any diet. So, ultimately you can lose weight through doing any particular diet. It's about finding one that you enjoy and sticking to it. But yes, absolutely. Cheat meals, cheat days, saving up points for the weekend if you're on Weight Watchers, all of those things are completely valid. And I think I agree with you entirely. If a life without beer, that's no life at all.
Wonderful. Well, you've earned yours, and we've been inspired by your story. Let me get all the housekeeping out of the way. The website, Andrew, is called?
It's manvfat.com.
Manvfat.com, and the book is called?
It's Man v Fat, the Weight Loss Manual.
There you go. Man v Fat, the Weight Loss Manual, available at all good bookstores, Amazon, and everywhere else, no doubt. Andrew, what a treat having you on the show. Keep up the great work.
Well done, Andrew.
Thanks ever so much, guys. Cheers.
Inspiring stuff. Okay, we're going from weight loss to plastic surgery next. We're going to have a live on-air radio inquest about...